The arrival of the Gralnac's flagship hovered above Earth's atmosphere, like a silver dagger ready to strike. It shimmered, with alien runes etched into its hull, and its shadow painted the clouds black beneath it. Commander Vark stood tall in the command chamber, his 4 arms crossed over his armored chest as he looked down at the blue-green planet beneath. Then his voice growled through the ship's comms. "Prepare the landing crew. We will take control of this planet within 1 solar cycle. Their defenses are primitive, their leaders are soft, and their people are scattered. Easy conquest is expected from a low-gravity world full of delicate creatures like these humans." His soldiers nodded, tapping commands into glowing panels and sharpening their pulse spears, expecting no real resistance. After all, every data file they accessed from intercepted human satellites showed weak muscular forms, bent postures, and an obsession with peace, art, and food, none of the traits they associated with strength or survival. Vark smirked, a predator among prey. Hours later, the first squadron of Gralnac's soldiers touched down in the Colorado Plains. Heavy boots hitting the ground with force, they stepped forward like conquerors' weapons ready. Systems locked. Their leader, Captain Tharn, sneered as he looked around the open space. No guards, no armies, no threats, just wind and strange birds. He raised his weapon and declared in his native tongue, "This world shall bow before the might of Gralnax." Before the translator finished echoing his words, his legs buckled slightly. A grunt escaped him, but he brushed it off, blaming the strange terrain. However, within moments, one of his soldiers dropped to one knee. Another clutched his chest, breathing hard even though the air was fully breathable. The troops were sweating, trembling, their armor beginning to feel like anchors. Tharn frowned. "Straighten up, soldiers," he barked, but his own spine refused to obey. The force pressing down on them was unlike anything they had trained for. Each step felt like dragging boulders with their limbs. He turned and tried to run a few steps toward their parked skimmer craft, but his legs collapsed completely and he fell flat into the dry grass, wheezing as if his lungs were squeezed by invisible fists. Human onlookers nearby, watching from a safe distance, began to whisper and film the scene, unsure if it was real. Soldiers in thick silver armor gasping for air as if Earth itself was choking them. A teenage boy eating chips with his dog whispered to his sister, "I think they're losing to our gravity." Meanwhile, back in the Gralnac ship orbiting Earth, alarms were blinking. Med teams rushed to check the health vitals of the landing crew. Dozens of red signals showed elevated pressure, spinal strain, muscle microtears, and intense cardiac stress. It was not a disease or a weapon, it was the planet itself. Every calculation had underestimated Earth's gravitational pull, a byproduct of its dense iron core and thick atmosphere. The med officer turned to Commander Vark and said grimly, "Sir, Earth's gravity is almost double that of Gralnax. Our soldiers are being crushed slowly but surely." Vark's face twitched, but he refused to show fear. "Double," he muttered. "Absurd. These creatures walk on this world without armor, without strain. Then what are they made of?" As the hours passed, the soldiers on Earth tried to adapt, but they failed miserably, walking more than 10 steps left them nauseous. Some fainted, others had to be carried back to the ship, but one refused to leave. Captain Tharn, clinging to pride, stood up again. Swaying like a tree in the storm, he looked up and saw a small human child running across the field, laughing, chasing a dog. The child leaped over a rock with ease while the aliens were barely standing. It broke something inside him. How could these soft-skinned creatures thrive in what felt like a death field to him? He fell again, this time not from gravity, but from realization and despair. Earth wasn't a paradise, it was a test of endurance, and the humans were not weak. They were survivors, hardened not by technology or weapons, but by the very planet they were born on. Later that evening, as med drones lifted the remaining soldiers back to orbit, the human government, still unsure how to respond, observed quietly. No missiles were launched, no counterattacks were ordered. For now, curiosity beat fear. Commander Vark stared at the footage of Tharn's collapse, the running child, the unbothered humans living under gravity that could crush his kind, and for the first time in his military career, he felt something foreign. Not defeat, not confusion, but respect, the kind that predators feel when they realized the prey might be stronger than them. He turned to his strategist and said, "Cancel invasion protocols, gather more data, and issue this planet a new classification. Not weak, not harmless, label it as high risk, and mark the native species as gravity evolved." He paused, then added quietly, "And maybe, just maybe, not prey the gravity trap." The Galactic soldiers returned to Earth's surface with heavy hearts and heavier bodies. They had come with the certainty of conquest, but now they stumbled like newborns under a force they could not escape. Their armor weighed them down like dead shells, and their weapons felt useless against the invisible enemy. Their leader, Commander Vark, instructed them to set up a temporary base near the ancient ruins of what humans called Mesa Verde. The wide stone terraces and cliff dwellings fascinated the aliens, but the crushing gravity was their main focus. Scientists among the humans had secretly watched the aliens' arrival. They knew that the Galactic had underestimated Earth, and the world's strongest secret was its relentless pull. The scientists organized a covert team led by Dr. Leah Morgan to monitor the aliens and find ways to survive Earth's oppressive gravity while secretly learning from the invaders. On the alien side, Captain Tharn and his squad huddled in their base, struggling to breathe and move. Their muscles screamed in protest, and every attempt to stand or walk was met with waves of pain. A young human child named Mia wandered nearby, unaware of the armored figure she had seen collapse earlier. The child ran across the plains lightly, her feet touching the ground as if it were nothing. She laughed, chasing a small rabbit, her breath steady and her body strong. The aliens watched her in disbelief. How could such a fragile being survive the same gravity that crushed them so easily? Mia's mother watched nervously from a distance. She had heard stories of invaders from the stars, but she believed in her daughter's strength and the power of their planet. The humans were not warriors by nature, but they were forged by hardship. Every child grew up under the weight of Earth's gravity, learning to move with it, not against it. They ran, climbed, swam, and lifted from an early age, their bodies shaped by the relentless pull of their home. Meanwhile, inside the Galactic base, the soldiers tried to use their technology to compensate for their weakened bodies. They activated gravity dampeners and exosuits designed for lower gravity planets, but the devices failed. The intense pull of Earth disrupted their systems and drained their energy even faster. Commander Vark's voice was cold and commanding. "We adapt or we die. The mission must continue." But each soldier knew that adapting to Earth's gravity was not just a physical battle, it was a war on their very biology. One day, during a brief scouting mission, Tharn and his team came across a group of humans training in a clearing. They saw men and women running uphill, carrying heavy loads, their bodies sweating, muscles straining, but their faces smiling with determination. The aliens could not believe their eyes. A human child was doing push-ups alongside adults, and an elderly man lifted weights that seemed to crush his bones, yet he kept pushing through the pain. The soldiers stared in awe and fear. Their assumptions about human weakness shattered with every heartbeat. Dr. Leah Morgan's team captured footage of the aliens' failed attempts and shared it with the world's leading experts. The news spread quickly, and a new respect for humans grew as people saw their strength through alien eyes. The Galactic began to realize that their weapons and armor meant little against the power of Earth's gravity. Humans were not soft or weak. They were survivors living on a planet that tested every step. Aliens' communication channels buzzed with concern and reports of malfunctions due to gravity interference. Their chief engineer warned Commander Vark, "Gravity is tearing apart our ships. The stress on the hulls and systems is beyond expected limits. If we stay much longer, we will lose everything." The commander nodded grimly. "This planet is a trap. Its gravity, a weapon stronger than any technology. We must rethink everything." And fast tensions rose as the aliens faced an impossible choice: continue the invasion and risk annihilation, or retreat and accept defeat. They watched helplessly as human children played freely nearby. The same gravity that crippled them was the very force that built these resilient beings. Captain Tharn whispered in a moment of despair, "How do we fight a planet itself?" As night fell on the alien base, the stars shone brightly above Earth's surface, Commander Vark stared out of the observation window, pondering the future. They had come to conquer, but now they were prisoners of gravity, of force. They had never respected. The humans below lived as if the crushing pull was a blessing, not a curse, and that realization changed everything. The aliens knew they had underestimated Earth and its people. But more than that, they began to fear a species that could survive where others failed. They sent a new message back to Galactic's command: Earth is not weak, it is a living. Trap its gravity, a cruel warriors born of pressure and pain. The report ended with a warning: do not approach lightly, for here lies strength beyond comprehension. And so the Galactics found themselves caught in a trap not of weapons or armies, but of gravity itself. They faced a planet that tested their limits, and a species that turned hardship into power. The war for Earth was not won by force, but by understanding that humans were made for this planet, and the planet was made to challenge them. The story of the Galactics on Earth had just begun, but already it was clear the aliens would never see humanity the same way again. Human strength revealed the Galactic's commander. Vark could no longer deny the truth that gnawed at the edges of his pride. The more he observed the humans, the more he realized that what he had called weakness was a lie born of his own ignorance. He stood on a rocky outcrop overlooking the human military training ground, where soldiers move with purpose and strength unlike anything he had seen before. The humans were smaller in stature, but their muscles burned with endurance, and their eyes held fierce determination. A challenge was declared among the Galactic's forces to test the limits of human strength. Commander Vark selected a human Marine named Jackson, who had earned a reputation for bravery and resilience. The two met in an open field surrounded by both alien and human spectators. The aliens smirked, expecting an easy victory, but Jackson stood firm, unshaken, and ready. The fight began with a rush. Jackson dodged the heavy swings of the aliens' multi-limbed attacks, his body moving fluidly despite the harsh gravity. Around them, the crowd held its breath as the human managed to land a solid blow, knocking the alien off balance. The Galactic's commander's eyes widened with shock. The human pressed on with calculated strikes and unwavering courage. Each punch sent tremors through the alien's armor, and soon the commander found himself on the ground, gasping for breath. Crowd erupted in stunned silence, then cheers. Humans had never fought like this before. They fought not with brute force, but with endurance, wit, and an unbreakable spirit. Jackson stood victorious and helped the alien to his feet with respect. Commander Vark bowed his head, acknowledging a lesson learned and a new respect earned. He recorded in his log, Earth was no ordinary battlefield. This planet bred warriors through suffering and perseverance. Back at the alien base, the news of the match spread, quickly igniting heated debates and unease. Many questioned their mission. Others began to fear that the humans were evolving beyond simple prey. Captain Tharn sat alone reviewing footage of the fight. The human marine's strength was not just physical, but a reflection of a species shaped by unyielding pressure. Captain Tharn whispered to himself, what does it take to survive a planet like this? Meanwhile, the humans continued their daily lives, unaware of the deep impact their strength had on the Fa. Invaders, a young girl lifted a fallen tree branch to clear a path for her friends. Her fingers bled, but she smiled. The elders told stories of ancestors who had conquered mountains, survived storms, and built civilizations in the harshest environments. The humans were proud of their heritage, a legacy written in sweat, pain, and resilience. Commander Vark prepared a report for Galactic's command, detailing the surprising discoveries. Humans were not just tough, they were gravity-forged titans whose very existence challenged the limits of biology. The report warned that any attempt to conquer Earth must consider the planet itself as the primary enemy, not the inhabitants alone. The humans had turned survival into an art form, and their planet was their greatest weapon. In a rare moment of peace, a Galactic scientist approached Vark with a new theory. The intense gravity of Earth might have accelerated human evolution, granting them strength, speed, and endurance unseen in the galaxy. This was No longer just a matter of technology or firepower, but of natural adaptation that no alien species could easily replicate. Vark nodded, understanding the stakes had risen higher than ever. As the days passed, the Gralnak soldiers trained under modified gravity suits, trying desperately to mimic human endurance. But the suits failed under Earth's relentless pull, and their bodies remained fragile. A simple hike up a hill left them exhausted while humans ran miles with ease. The aliens realized they had underestimated a force they could not control and a species they could not easily defeat. One evening, Commander Vark visited the human settlement under the cover of darkness. He watched children laughing, running, and climbing trees. Their joy and strength spoke of a life lived in harmony with a planet that demanded everything from them. Vark's heart, something he had long forgotten, stirred with admiration and a strange hope. Perhaps there was a way to coexist rather than conquer. As the Gralnaks reconsidered their plans, the humans prepared quietly for a future that seemed uncertain but full of potential. The battle lines were not just drawn with weapons, but with respect and understanding. The story of Earth was not one of weakness, but of indomitable strength, born from the very gravity that once threatened to destroy them. Commander Vark closed his log with a final note. Earth was not just a planet, it was a crucible, and its people were forged in its relentless pressure. They were the gravity evolved, and the galaxy would do well to remember this truth. The aliens left with a new mission, not to conquer, but to learn from the species that thrived where others perished. Truth in the gym. Commander Vark and his closest advisors decided they needed to understand the source of human strength firsthand. They secretly observed a human facility, the place they called a gym, filled with strange machines and people pushing their bodies to the limits. The aliens were baffled by what they saw: humans lifting enormous weights, their muscles trembling with effort, but never giving up. Some screamed in pain, others gritted their teeth, but all kept going. The air was thick with determination and the scent of sweat. Aliens hid behind thick glass walls, trying to make sense of this ritual. Humans voluntarily subjected themselves to torture, yet smiled and encouraged each other. They watched an old man who, despite his age, lifted more than any Gralnak soldier could carry. His hands shook, but his spirit burned bright. A young woman practiced punching bags, her arms moving fast and precise. Like warriors in a dance, their movements were both beautiful and brutal. Captain Tharn felt his pride wounded as he realized that the humans' endurance came not from armor or weapons, but from pain and perseverance. They trained their bodies daily in this brutal environment to prepare for a world that demanded toughness. Every bead of sweat, every aching muscle was a testament to their willpower. It was a language the aliens had forgotten, the language of survival through struggle outside the gym. A young boy ran laps, his breath steady and his legs strong. Despite his small frame, he pushed harder than many adults. The aliens noted his heart rate and muscle recovery as he sprinted faster than any of them could. Despite the crushing gravity, his body moved with grace and power. The boy smiled freely, unaware of the eyes studying his every move inside the human training room. The aliens saw camaraderie and respect. Humans cheered each other on, shared stories of pain and victory, and never left a teammate behind. They lifted each other when one fell and celebrated small wins with laughter. Their strength was not just physical, but deeply connected to their spirit and community. Commander Vark realized this was the true power of Earth. One scientist among the aliens suggested they try training like humans, but Captain Tharn shook his head. This is impossible. The gravity in our biology make it impossible to endure their kind of pain. Yet the evidence was clear: humans had adapted to the relentless pressure of their planet, becoming living weapons forged by hardship. The aliens began to rethink their mission to conquer Earth. Instead, they wondered if they could learn from humans, learn how to survive in places even harsher than Gralnaks. Humans were not just strong, they were a force of nature, a species that thrived by embracing the pain that crushed others. They were the embodiment of the planet's strength, and the aliens could only watch in awe. Commander Vark stepped forward and declared that Earth's gravity was not a punishment, but a gift, a challenge that had sculpted the humans into something extraordinary. Their bodies were temples built to withstand pressure, their minds sharpened by constant struggle. This was a species born of the planet itself, a living testament to endurance and spirit. Meanwhile, the humans continued their daily lives, unaware of the respect they had earned from the stars. They lifted weights, ran miles, climbed mountains, and swam across icy rivers. Their pain was real, but so was their joy. The gym was more than a place, it was a symbol of humanity's unbreakable will to survive and thrive in the face of relentless odds. As the Galactic prepared to retreat for now, they took one last look at the humans in the gym. Their faces were etched with determination and hope. Their bodies glistened with sweat and strength. It was a sight that would stay with the aliens forever, a reminder that strength was more than muscle, it was the heart and soul of the Commander Vark whispered to his team, "Earth has shown us the truth, that strength is born from suffering, and that the weakest can become the strongest when forged by fire." The Galactic would return, but next time not as conquerors, but as learners, respectful of the power that was Earth and its people. The story of the Galactic and humans was changing from one of war to one of respect and understanding. The aliens had seen that to conquer Earth was to conquer the spirit of endurance itself. And that was no easy feat. The humans were gravity-forged warriors, living proof that the reckoning, the Galactic forces had suffered more than they expected. Earth's gravity had taken its toll on their bodies, their technology, and their spirits. Their ships groaned under the pressure of the dense atmosphere and thick magnetic fields, making every attempt to launch a full-scale attack nearly impossible. Commander Vark convened an emergency meeting deep within the alien base where flickering lights cast long shadows on the walls. Around him stood weary soldiers, engineers, and strategists, each bearing the scars of their failed mission. Captain Tharn stepped forward, his voice heavy with exhaustion, but laced with determination. "We cannot stay here much longer. The gravity damages our systems and breaks our bodies. This planet is a prison disguised as a home. We must find a way out before we lose everything." Yet Vark shook his head. No retreat, yet not without understanding the true strength of the humans below. They are not just survivors, but warriors forged by this relentless pressure and pain. We must respect that if we hope to live. Aliens prepared their ships for a final attempt to escape Earth's crushing grip, but as they gathered their forces, they were met with an unexpected resistance. A small human girl, no more than 10 years old, appeared at the outskirts of their camp. Her eyes were bright with courage, and she carried nothing but a simple slingshot in her hands. The soldiers laughed at first, unable to believe this child could pose any threat to their advanced technology. But the girl was fearless. She moved swiftly, using the terrain to her advantage. Her aim was true as she launched stones at the invaders, disrupting their communications and causing chaos among their ranks. The Galactic soldiers were stunned by her bravery and skill. She was a symbol of the human spirit that refused to be broken by the harshest conditions. Even the most battle-hardened alien found themselves hesitant to attack this fearless child. Commander Vark watched in disbelief as the girl stood her ground. The humans below were not helpless prey, but defenders of their world. Each member of the alien force began to feel the weight of their miscalculation. The planet itself was alive with resistance, and the humans embodied that resistance with fierce hearts and unyielding will. Alien engineers reported critical damage to the ship systems. Gravity fluctuations caused by Earth's magnetic field were tearing through their hulls, making repairs nearly impossible. The countdown to retreat had begun, but the humans were not done yet. Their instincts and courage inspired each other to rise against the invaders. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, the girl named Mia became a legend among the humans. Her slingshot, a symbol of defiance and hope. She inspired others to stand tall against the alien threat, teaching them that strength was not measured by weapons, but by spirit. The Galactic realized that even the youngest humans carried the legacy of survival and endurance, passed down through generations. As The aliens prepared to withdraw. Commander Vark approached the human leaders requesting a parley. A truce was called, and for the first time in history, two species met not as enemies, but as wary allies seeking understanding. The humans welcomed the opportunity, knowing that their planet's strength was their greatest defense and their greatest gift. The alien leader bowed in respect and said, "Earth's gravity has shaped a people unlike any we have known. Your strength is a lesson to us all. We come not to conquer, but to learn to coexist and honor the power that is your home." The humans nodded their heads, knowing that this was the beginning of a new chapter, not just for Earth but for the galaxy. As the Galactic ships lifted off the ground and began their slow ascent through the thick atmosphere, Commander Vark looked down at the vague blue planet with newfound respect. The battle had not been won by firepower or strategy, but by the unyielding force of a planet and its people. Their legacy was written in the very gravity that once threatened to crush them, but instead made them stronger. The story of Earth and the Galactic was far from over, but this reckoning had changed everything. The humans were no longer seen as weak or insignificant, but as formidable warriors forged by the relentless pressure of their world. And the aliens carried with them a message to the stars that strength came in many forms, and that survival was a test that only the strongest could pass. Humanity's message. After the uneasy truce, Commander Vark and his Galactic advisors agreed to accompany a small team of humans on a journey across Earth to understand better what made this planet and its people so formidable. The humans called it a tour of extremes, and it promised to challenge the aliens more than any battlefield had ever done. Group traveled from the icy peaks of Everest to the scorching sands of the Sahara, from the crushing depths of ocean trenches to the dense jungles where sunlight barely touched the ground. Each location was a testament to human resilience and the planet's relentless demands. On Everest, the aliens watched as climbers struggled against bone-chilling winds and thin air. Their muscles burned with each step, their breath shallow but their spirits unbroken. One climber reached the summit despite frostbite and exhaustion. His face was a mask of pain but also triumph. The Galactic were stunned that humans could endure such harsh conditions, that no alien from their world could survive. Next, they visited the deep sea, where divers explored crushing pressure that would crush alien bodies instantly. The humans wore heavy suits, but their courage and skill allowed them to navigate the dangerous depths, gathering resources and scientific data. Their will to survive and explore fascinated the aliens. It was not just strength, but curiosity that drove humans to conquer these hostile places. The deserts were no less impressive. Humans ran miles under the burning sun, their skin cracked and bleeding, but they kept moving. Their survival depended on water conservation skill and sheer determination. Ancient tribes had lived in these harsh lands for centuries, adapting their bodies and customs to the unforgiving environment. The Galactic marveled at how humans thrived in places that seemed designed to kill. Throughout the journey, the humans laughed through pain, helped each other when they stumbled, and celebrated small victories. Their community spirit and compassion stood in stark contrast to the cold efficiency of the Galactic's military. Their strength was not just in their muscles, but in their hearts and minds. Commander Vark's scientists spoke quietly to him. Earth's gravity is the forge of their bodies, but their spirit is forged by challenges and by the bonds they build with each other. This combination makes them nearly unstoppable, and the galaxy must take notice. The commander nodded, knowing this journey had changed him and his people forever. Back aboard the Galactic's flagship, the report was compiled and sent to command. Earth was declared a high-risk zone, but also a planet of great interest for future cooperation rather than conquest. The humans were now known as gravity-forged titans, warriors whose endurance was a blend of biology, environment, and culture. They represented a new kind of challenge in the universe, one that demanded respect and adaptation. The aliens began to train using human methods, introducing pain tolerance exercises, team building, and mental endurance programs. Inspired by the humans, they sought ways to strengthen their bodies beyond technological enhancements. They realized that technology alone could never replace the willpower born of surviving harsh conditions. Meanwhile, the humans prepared for a future with new allies from the stars. Their story of survival and strength had reached beyond their world, inspiring hope and caution. Across the galaxy, theirs was a message of endurance, of thriving, despite the odds of living in a universe full of unknown dangers and opportunities. Commander Vark looked out at the stars, knowing that Earth had not only survived its encounter with the Growlnax, but had changed them. The strength of a planet and its people was a force no one could ignore, and a lesson in humility and respect. The humans had shown that the greatest power was the will to survive, and that sometimes the hardest battles were fought not with weapons, but with the spirit. The Growlnax and humans had forged a fragile peace, and a deeper understanding. Their journey together was only beginning, and the future held promises of new discoveries, challenges, and alliances. The legacy of Earth's gravity-forged warriors would echo across the stars, reminding all that true strength came from embracing the pressure and thriving in the face of adversity. The final log, as the Growlnax ships slowly lifted off from Earth's atmosphere. Commander Vark sat alone in the command chamber, his eyes fixed on the blue and green planet that had tested them beyond anything they had imagined. The journey had been a revelation, not just about human strength, but about the unyielding power of a world that demanded everything from its inhabitants. The reports had been sent, the logs recorded, and the lessons learned, but the commander knew this was more than just data. This was The ships creaked and groaned under the strain of escaping Earth's dense gravity. Every meter gained was a victory against an invisible force that had almost claimed them. The aliens were exhausted, their bodies weaker, and their minds heavier. With the knowledge that they had underestimated the planet and its people, Commander Vark opened his final log entry, his voice steady and clear. Earth is the most dangerous planet we have encountered, not because of weapons or armies, but because of the relentless pressure it exerts on all who dare to walk its surface. The gravity here is a test, a trial that breaks the weak and forges the strong. He paused, remembering the faces of the humans. The child with the slingshot, the old man lifting weights, the marine who fought with courage, and the climbers who conquered mountains. The humans were not just survivors, they were warriors born of a planet that crushed all but those who refused to give up. They had learned that strength was more than muscle. It was will, endurance, and spirit, all shaped by the harsh environment they called home. The final moments of the log detailed the new classification. Earth was no longer a simple resource or conquest target, but a high-risk zone with the highest survival rating. The native species were listed as gravity evolved, their adaptability unmatched, their resilience legendary, and their spirit unbreakable. The report ended with a warning to all future explorers and conquerors: approach this world with respect, for here lives a species that thrives where others perish. Commander Vark's thoughts turned to his own people and the lessons they would carry forward. The arrogance of the past had been replaced with humility and a desire to learn, not just to conquer. The Growlnax would return one day, not as invaders, but as allies eager to understand and share knowledge with the gravity-forged humans of Earth. As the ships disappeared into the vastness of space, the last thing Vark saw was a small alien child playing with a toy human soldier. The child whispered softly, "They live where we would die." And in those words lay the true power of humanity, a force born of pressure, pain, and endless determination. The legacy of Earth was now written across the stars, a testament to the strength that comes from surviving and thriving against all odds. The story of the Growlnax and humans was a reminder that strength takes many forms, and that sometimes the greatest battles are won not with weapons, but with the unbreakable spirit forged by a planet that tests every step. It was a story of respect, survival, and the enduring power of life in the face of relentless challenges. The humans of Earth had proven that they were not weak, not fragile, but titans born of gravity itself. And so the final chapter closed not with destruction, but with hope and understanding. A new era began for Earth and the galaxy, where the gravity-forged warriors of humanity would continue to inspire and challenge the stars themselves. This was their story, a story of strength, endurance, and the unstoppable will to survive the final log. As the Galactic ship slowly rose away from Earth's grasp, Commander Vark sat silently watching the vibrant blue planet below, a world that had tested them beyond anything they had ever known. Their mission had transformed from conquest to a deep respect for a species and a planet that defied expectation. The logs were complete, and the message clear: Earth was no ordinary world, its gravity a fierce master, and its people forged by unyielding pressure. Ships strained against the thick atmosphere, every inch gained was a battle against a force that crushed many, but strengthened those who endured. Vark thought of the humans he had seen, the child with fearless eyes and a simple slingshot, the old man lifting weights with trembling hands, but an unbreakable will, the Marine whose courage had toppled an alien commander, and the climbers who faced frozen peaks with nothing but resolve. These were not mere survivors, but titans crafted by the harshness of their home, their bodies and spirits molded by relentless challenge, taught to endure pain and turn struggle into power. Earth was not a place to be feared only for its weapons or armies, but for the living force it embodied in its people. In his final report, Vark declared Earth a high-risk zone, and its inhabitants gravity evolved. Their strength was unmatched, their endurance legendary, and their will unbreakable. A warning was sent across the stars to all who might come here, to tread carefully and honor the planet that breeds such warriors. As the stars grew distant, Vark saw a small, Galactic child holding a toy human soldier, whispering, "Softly, they live where we would die." His heart swelled with newfound humility and hope, for humanity was a force born of gravity, pain, and endless determination, a force that would echo across galaxies and time. This was a story of respect, survival, and the unbreakable spirit shaped by a planet that tested every breath. The humans had proved they were not weak, fragile, or simple, but true warriors forged by their world and ready to face whatever came next. And so the chapter closed not in war, but with promise, a future of understanding and alliance where the gravity-forged warriors of Earth would inspire the cosmos and challenge the stars. Their story was one of strength, endurance, and the unstoppable will to survive the end.